G'day Reefers, I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Welcome to Gallery Aquatica TV. Today we have got an exciting development with Reef Redo. We've finally got our cabinetry on, and so the tank is looking excellent. We'll start by having a look at the cabinetry and then we'll do some finishing touches on the filtration. So here we go, Reef Redo with a cabinet. So if you can remember right back at episode 1 of Reef Redo, the cabinetry on this system was an absolute mess. It was falling apart, it was really not looking particularly good. And so now we have this beautiful cabinet, and it's excellent to look at, but also it's very practical with the way you can access the tank. We have lots of space above the tank, and we've got heaps of space below the tank. We'll have a look at our filtration in closer detail in a minute, but for now, just looking at the cabinet, it looks so good. And something else that we've even got access on the end. So this panel can come off and we can get in through this side. So it's going to be really easy when we're adding corals into the system and any changes we need to make to the aquascape, or if we need to take out the light. So let's have a quick look at how the filtration is going. Behind this little door, we have our external overflow. That's it up here. Now with our overflow, we have a 3-line drainage system. So what that means is we have a primary line, we have a secondary line with a Durso, and we have an emergency overflow. If the first two become blocked, the water will go down the overflow, so there's no chance of a flood. These plumbing pipes go down through a board into the sump. So let's have a look underneath the tank at the sump and see how the filtration is going. We have our Octo skimmer and it's skimming fairly well. It probably needs to be tuned a little bit. There's not a lot of waste in the cup, but we wouldn't expect to see a lot because the tank is so young, and the only bioload we have are 2 clownfish and a couple of snails. So I'm happy with this. Our refugium is also doing quite well. We've got our prime fuge, which has grown the keto quite well. It's probably doubled in size from last time we were here. Now we're going to actually add to the filter today. The plan is to put a pre-filter on this system. You can see that the water is a bit cloudy, and I'm hoping that the pre-filter really clears that up. And it should also make future maintenance on the system easier. The problem that we've got though is that I'm going to have to cut some of the plumbing. But luckily I have the perfect tool for that, so I'll show you that in a minute. And we're also going to add another fish, and we've got 3 corals to put in the tank. So we'll start off by having a look at what we could do with this pre-filter to help clear the water. I'm going to start today by turning off the system. So it's very easy for us to turn off our return pump. Our Vectra M2 is right here, so I'll just turn that off there. I'll also turn off the skimmer at the same time, just so that it doesn't over skim. Here we go. And something else that I'm paying close attention to is the amount that the water level is going to rise in the sump when the return pump goes off. It's always good to know how much it goes up by so that you can ensure that there's no risk of a flood. But I know with this sump, because it's so big, that it's going to stop around about here, and we've got heaps of extra space in the sump, and there's really no chance of this system ever flooding. It's a bit noisy at the moment. So I'll leave the wave makers on, no need to turn them off at the moment, and it will stop about now. Alright, let's have a look at the pre-filter that we've got for this system. So the pre-filter that we've got today is a Sea Torch sock holder. Now, we weren't able to get this at the time of the installation, so we haven't been able to put it on until now, and it might be a little bit more difficult given that we have to retrofit this on, but effectively it's going to sit inside the sump in this first chamber where the skimmer is. It's It's got a couple of brackets. It's going to bracket onto the side, and we're going to be able to put our socks, and it takes 2 socks through like so, and it's going to mean that we've got a pre-filter for this system. Now I'll possibly change the socks out for media baskets so that we can put floss or something like that in. I'm not too sure yet, but the first challenge is just going to be ensuring that we're able to fit this in the tank. It may be a bit tricky given we're retrofitting it. All right. It's going to be fairly difficult. The problem that we've got is that the main drain has the ball valve on it at the back, and we have to actually move the ball valve up the top here so we can still adjust the flow. So we're going to have to actually cut it up here. So I hope I've got the right parts to do this. So this is going to go here. So I'll start by cutting it about there. Alright, so cutting plumbing in situ is a difficult thing to do, but luckily I've got the perfect tool for the job. There we go. That's our main drain, perfectly cut. So now this will go on like so. Our sock holder is going to go here, like so. So now we're going to use this section and hopefully glue it back into the ball valve in the Reef in the new position. So I'm just going to cut it roughly there, and now see if this fits. I think it will. So I think I need to actually take off probably about 1 inch of this plumbing just to make it a bit easier, an easier fit. Ball valve, and let's try this way. Like so. Then we'll put our cover over top like this. You can see we've got our plumbing for the chiller, which is actually behind the tank in a pantry. We'll probably move this plumbing in the future, but for now our priority is getting this pre-filter on. But this all lines up perfectly, so we just have to dry it off and glue it. The good thing about this, the way it's going to work, is that we can easily remove this section because it has this union joint here. So if we need to in the future take this out, we'll just undo it here and the whole thing will come out very easily. It should be the perfect solution for this tank. Alright. So that's pretty much it. It's in position, but let's have a look at the media containers that we're going to use in this pre-filter system. Our Sea-Torch sock holder comes with 2 socks, but what I'm actually going to do is only use one of the socks, and in the other section I'm going to use a Red Sea filter media cup. It's basically just like a plastic sock that we're going to be able to put different media inside of, and I've just got some Simek. It's just a filter wool that is going to be perfect, and the combination of the sock and the Simek in the media cup should really help to clear this cloudy water. So, very, very easy. I'm not going to pack it too tightly. Just like that. That's going to go in the first chamber, and our sock in the second. And now our cover goes back on top. Alright. So when we turn the return back on, we'll have a look at exactly how this is working. But for now, we've got a few other things we need to do on this tank. It's time for us to mount our Kamoa X4. This is one of my favourite dosing pumps. It's Wi-Fi, very easy to use, very precise, and we're going to mount it on the board behind the sump. What I'm going to do is I'll take off this end panel, and again, there are the magnets, so it attaches to the end, and this way we'll get a better view as I'm installing this doser. So this is where I want it. It should be perfect to lead down into the return pump chamber, and we'll probably have our vessels either down the end or out where the chiller is. So we might need some extra length of tubing for that, but I still think this is the best place to put it. So I just need to mark out the screws so I can attach it onto the wall. So I've just made a template out of a bit of cardboard from the box for this doser, and I'm just marking out exactly where I want the screws to go. Now I'll mark on here. Okay. I'm going to start with a pilot hole. Okay, then the doser just goes straight on, like that. Alright, what's wrong with this one? Okay, that one wasn't on properly. Okay. Alright, so that's it. Now we just have to attach our dosing line and direct it into the tank. So happily, you get a little dosing tube rack with your Kamoa X4, and it makes it really easy to secure the lines to make sure that they don't come off and just swing freely in the wind. Okay. So I like to stretch this out. It just reduces the plastic memory and the curls to the line. I might get an extra 30 centimeters if you do this too. Alright. So you can mow as draw from the right, dispense on the left. So I think we'll just go straight like that, and then that'll be it. That'll work out well. So we're going to put this section on, get this little part as well, which goes in like so, and then we put the tubing on, which is as easy as that. That. And this part goes on, and this secures it. Perfect. One down. 3 to go. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Turn around. So I think we're going to have our doser dispensing into this section here, mainly because I'm a little bit worried about the height of our matting in here, but this is probably something we'll change in the future. We're not going to do the intake lines just yet. We'll wait until we start dosing, and we're at least 2 or 3 months off needing to dose this tank. We're going to take this opportunity with the return pump and wave makers off to glue in some corals to this tank. So these will be the first corals, and what they are, they're little sustainable reefs, soft coral, they're leather frags. And so we're using soft corals to start off with because they don't really require the doser working, and they're quite hardy. So we've got 3, we've got our Ecotech coral glue, and we're just going to choose some spots low in the tank and glue these guys in. So in hindsight, I think I probably should have chopped off the stems of these frag plugs. I've used a fair bit of glue, but I do like the corals to be secure. Only the one sort of went perfectly because there was a little hole the size of the stem, but they'll go okay like this, and in the near future we'll get a bit of an indication of how the tank is going when we see whether or not these 3 sarcophytons open up. Alright, I'm going to turn the return on. This will be interesting to see exactly how our sock holder goes, and I'll also have to retune the system. Because I put a new ball valve on, I'll have to tune this one to the return flow. So I'll start by turning on our Vectra M2. There it goes. Last thing that we have to do before we leave is to introduce our next fish into this tank. And we've chosen to go for a Lawnmower Blenny. The reason being is that they're a hardy fish, and I only want to add a small number of, a small amount of biomass, so a single fish is ideal. And a Lawnmower Blenny is something that doesn't really need to be in a group, and they're quite a confident fish, so good at this stage. Now I've already acclimated him, so all I need to do is let him out of the bag. Over the last half hour, I've slowly added water from the tank into this bag, and I'll just cut it open and let him out. So there we go, fish number 3. We're behind the tank in what is seemingly a pantry, and we've got our chiller in here. Now currently it's at 26.3. We normally run it at about 24, 25. Once we put a few more corals in, we might drop it a bit, but you can see the position is perfect because it's not enclosed in the cabinet, which also means we've got more space under the tank for our sump. But this is a perfect place, well ventilated, easy to access, and the plumbing or the hoses just go straight through into the sump, so there's not a great distance between where the chiller is and the sump. So it's a perfect place for our TK 2000. We've finished everything that we set out to do today and we're about to head off, but let's just have one last look at how this tank is going. Now, I would say everything's going great. The only thing that I'm not perfectly happy with is the clarity of the water, and with the pre-filter that we've installed today, that should hopefully fix that entirely. Certainly as the tank ages and cycles, this water will clear up, and so it will not be an ongoing problem. We have our skimmer working, we've got our water level where it should be in the sump. Our pre-filter is working quite fine. It'll be interesting to see how quickly the floss actually needs to be replaced. Our keto, as we said before, is doing very well also. And on the other side, our dosing pump is doing exactly what it should be. And I'm happy with the way our Kamoa X4 has been positioned in the cabinet. We just have to program it, hook it up, and get our dosing vessels in. We're not sure exactly where we're going to put our dosing vessels just yet, but so far so good. So that is it for today's episode of Gallery Aquatica TV. Whilst we're certainly not finished, and you can argue that a reef tank is never really finished, it's always evolving, developing. It's a dynamic ecosystem, so it's never really finished. However, for our project Reef Redo, I'm happy to say that I consider this tank a reef redone. So that's it for today's episode of Gallery Aquatica TV. Stay tuned for more episodes of Reef Redo in the future. We'll show you the fish and corals that we're going to be adding to this system. I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Happy reefing.
That's our video for today. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like button and make sure you've subscribed to our channel so you don't miss an episode of Gallery Aquatica TV. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Cam the Fish Guy. Happy reefing!